Hello, my love. Welcome back to The Family Architect. Today's episode might stir something deep, but stay with me because this one's about freedom. We're talking about how to break generational patterns without falling into blame, resentment, or guilt. Most of us come into motherhood with a quiet vow in our hearts. I'll never be like my parent. But when the stress builds, when your child hits the same triggers that used to set you off, something familiar happens. Their voice, their tears, their tone, it wakes up the child inside you. And suddenly you hear yourself saying words you swore you never would. That's not failure. That's programming. And this episode will show you how to rewrite it. Every family hands down a blueprint, a map for how love, safety, and connection are expressed. You didn't consciously choose it. It's imprinted through your parents' tone, touch, silence, and reactions. Maybe you grew up with a parent who yelled or withdrew, one who was emotionally unavailable, or one who loved fiercely but was consumed by worry, control, or perfectionism. You internalized those patterns as normal. Your body learned this is what love feels like, even if it wasn't safe. Let me tell you what this looks like in real life. Sarah came to me because she kept finding herself yelling at her children, and she hated it. She'd sworn she would never raise her voice the way her father did. But there she was, hearing his words come out of her mouth, seeing her children's faces reflect the same fear she had felt as a child. I thought I was breaking the cycle, she told me, but I'm just repeating it. Here's what I want you to understand. When you find yourself repeating patterns you swore you'd never pass on, it doesn't mean you're failing. It means your nervous system is running old programming. These patterns live in your body, not just your mind. And body-level patterns require body-level healing. This is why the regulated mother method isn't just about understanding your triggers intellectually. It's about rewiring your nervous system so that you can respond differently in real time. It's about parenting by design, making conscious choices rather than parenting by default, running on autopilot from old programming. When you start seeing these patterns clearly, it's easy to feel anger or sadness. You might think, why didn't they do better? Why didn't they protect me? Why did they pass this pain on to me? Those are valid feelings, and they deserve space. I'm not asking you to pretend everything was fine if it wasn't. Your pain is real. Your childhood experiences shaped you, and you have every right to acknowledge that. But here's what I've learned after working with hundreds of mothers. Staying in blame keeps your power outside of you. It makes your healing dependent on someone else changing, apologizing, or understanding. And most of the time, that's not going to happen. The truth is, most of our parents were simply repeating what they were taught. Generational trauma isn't personal, it's ancestral conditioning. Your mother was probably mothering the way she was mothered. Your father was probably fathering the way he was fathered. They were doing the best they could with the tools they had and the healing they'd done or hadn't done. You can honor the truth of your pain without needing to vilify the people who passed it down. That's what breaking the cycle really means. It means seeing clearly what happened, feeling your feelings about it, and then choosing to respond differently without needing your parents to change first. Let me share what happened with Emma, a mother who had the overwhelmed heart archetype. She was furious at her mother for being emotionally unavailable during her childhood. Every time she tried to talk to her mother about it, her mother would get defensive or change the subject. Emma was stuck, waiting for her mother to acknowledge what happened before she could heal. When we worked together, Emma realized something profound. Her healing didn't depend on her mother's awareness. She could grieve what she didn't receive, honor her pain, and still move forward. She could break the pattern of emotional unavailability with her own children without her mother ever understanding or apologizing. That's the shift from blame to empowerment. You stop waiting for permission to heal. Inside the regulated mother method, we talk about the 3 shifts that help you transform generational patterns. Let me walk you through them. The first shift is from blame to awareness. Awareness is power. You can't change what you can't see. So start noticing. What do I do when I'm stressed that feels familiar? Whose voice echoes in my mind when I parent? What reactions feel older than me? Remember, maybe you find yourself using the same sharp tone your mother used. Maybe you withdrew emotionally like your father did. Maybe you overfunction and control everything like your grandmother. These aren't character defects. They're learned behaviors that your nervous system is running on automatic. I remember Jessica telling me, I never realized I was repeating my mother's anxiety until my daughter said, Mummy, why are you always worried about everything? It was like hearing my own childhood words spoken back to me. That moment of awareness was the beginning of change for Jessica. She could finally see the patterns she'd been unconsciously repeating. Awareness doesn't excuse anyone. It just sets you free from unconscious repetition. The second shift is from judgment to compassion. This one is hard, but vital. Compassion doesn't mean condoning. It doesn't mean saying that what happened to you was okay. It means understanding the lineage. Imagine your mother as a little girl, doing her best to please, to survive, to belong. Imagine her mother doing the same. Imagine the wounds being passed down through generations of women who didn't have the tools, the awareness, or the support to heal. When you see the chain, you stop fighting the person and start healing the pattern. This doesn't mean you have to have a relationship with your parents if that's not safe or healthy. It doesn't mean you have to forgive or forget. It just means you understand that hurt people, and you're choosing to end that cycle. Let me tell you about Rachel, who had the hidden rage archetype. She carried so much anger towards her father, who had explosive rages when she was growing up. Through our work together, she learned that her father had grown up in a violent household where anger was the only emotion allowed for men. Understanding this did not erase Jessica's pain or make her father's behavior acceptable. But it helped her see that his rage wasn't about her. It was about his own unhealed wounds. And that understanding freed her to work on her own anger without carrying the weight of his too. The third shift is from reaction to repatterning. Once you can see and soften, you can begin to choose differently. This is where body-based tools come in, like our ground root send sequence or the first 60 seconds protocol we talk about in earlier episodes. Because awareness isn't enough on its own. You have to teach your nervous system that safety feels different now. You have to give your body new experiences of what it's like to stay present during stress, to hold boundaries with compassion, to feel emotions without being destroyed by them. When you stay present during a trigger instead of repeating the pattern, you literally reprogram your lineage. You're showing your nervous system a new way. You're showing your children a new way. Let me share Tara's story. Tara was a mother of 2 who came to me because she kept freezing when her daughter cried. She'd want to help, but she'd just go blank, unable to move or speak. When we explored it, she realized her own mother used to say, "Stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about." I heard that one a lot too. Tara's nervous system had learned that emotion equaled danger, that crying children meant she was about to get hurt. Through gentle practice, she began grounding herself during her daughter's meltdowns. breathing, touching her heart, whispering, "It's safe to feel." She'd feel her feet on the ground and remind herself, "I'm the adult now. This is different. My daughter's tears won't hurt me." It took time. Sometimes she'd still freeze, but gradually her nervous system learned the new pattern. Now her daughter sobs freely, and Tara stays with her, present, connected. That's what generational healing looks like. Quiet, steady change. If you've taken the Awakening Trigger Map quiz, understanding how generational healing shows up for your archetype can be really helpful. If you're the overwhelmed heart, you may have inherited the good girl or helper role. Perhaps you watched your grandmother or mother closely, and you learned that your worth comes from how much you give. Your healing involves learning to receive, to ask for help, to know that you're valuable even when you're not doing everything for everyone. If you're the silenced child, you're breaking the pattern of emotional repression. Maybe emotions weren't safe in your family. Maybe you learned to be quiet, to not make waves, to swallow your truth. Your healing involves allowing your voice, speaking your needs, trusting that your feelings matter. If you're the hidden rage, you're healing suppressed anger from generations of women who weren't allowed to be angry. Nice girls don't get angry. Good mothers don't lose their temper. Your healing involves finding healthy ways to express anger, to set boundaries, to claim your strength without shame. If you're the hypervigilant protector, you're ending the cycle of anxiety and control that once kept your family safe. Maybe you grew up with chaos or unpredictability, and you learned that if you could just control everything, everyone would be safe. Your healing involves learning to trust, to rest, to know that you don't have to hold everything together. If you're the numb resigner, you're thawing generations of emotional freeze, bringing aliveness back to your lineage. Maybe your family survived by not feeling, by shutting down, by going through the motions. Your healing involves reconnecting with your body, your emotions, your aliveness. Here's something beautiful about this work. When you heal yourself, you heal forward and backwards. You heal forward by giving your children a different experience than you had. And you heal backward by offering compassion to every woman in your lineage who didn't have the tools you have now. I want to address something that comes up a lot. What if your parents are still in your life and still triggering you? What if they're still repeating the patterns that hurt you? You don't have to wait for them to change to break the cycle. You can set boundaries. You can limit contact if needed. You can choose how much of your life they're part of. And you can do all of this while still working on your own healing. Breaking generational patterns doesn't mean you have to maintain relationships that aren't healthy. It means you're not letting those relationships define your healing journey. Let me share one more story. Lisa had a mother who was still critical and controlling. Every visit would end with Lisa feeling terrible about herself. For years, Lisa kept trying to change her mother, to make her understand, to get the validation she'd always wanted. Finally, Lisa realized her mother might never change. That was okay. She could still heal. She could still break the pattern with her own children. She could limit her exposure to her mother's criticism and work on not internalizing it. She stopped waiting for her mother's approval to know her worth. That's the freedom that comes from this worth. You stop needing the people who hurt you to validate your healing. You're not your mother. You're not your grandmother. You are the bridge between what was and what can be. Breaking the cycle doesn't mean rejecting your roots. It means replanting them in safety. This is the work of the regulated mother method. This is how we archetype families where the wounds of the past don't determine the future, where conscious choices replace unconscious patterns, where healing happens in real time. In our next episode, we'll explore how to reconnect with your inner child and why she's the key to becoming the mother you long to be. Until then, be gentle with yourself. You are the change your lineage has been waiting for. Here's your practice for this week. When you notice yourself repeating a family pattern, pause and whisper, "This ends with me." Then breathe, ground, choose one small thing differently. Every time you do, you rewire not just your own nervous system, but you change what you pass on to your children. If you haven't taken the Awakening Trigger Map quiz yet, head over to fantasticfuture.com.au or check out the show notes and discover how generational patterns show up in your unique archetype. If the Family Architect podcast is helping you break free from old patterns, please follow the show and leave a review. Your words help other mothers find this work and give them the courage to heal. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear that they can break the cycle without blaming their parents. We heal together. Thank you for being here, for choosing consciousness over conditioning, for being the one who says this ends with me. Until next time, love.